Hey guys, welcome back. This is Michael Hoskinson again with K9 Control, and this is K9 Convos. Today we got a special guest in-house. We have another local trainer here, and this is Matt Morris. Thank you for coming.
Yes, thanks for having me.
I appreciate it.
This is awesome.
I know, right? And what's kind of unique about it is we've never really actually met.
Nope.
Like
I've known
5
you
minutes
for
ago.
3 minutes.
Yeah, right? Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
Unfortunately, the dog training world isn't like that friendly. It doesn't seem like that. A lot of people just sit down and talk and be okay with it.
Texas is friendly. The North Texas area is very friendly.
Texas is, well, it's Texas.
Right.
That's why everybody's coming here, I guess.
Right, but North Texas specifically.
You specifically like that North Texas.
You go anywhere else and there's a lot of competition and bad blood and,
well, there's so much going on. It's funny how it seems to me like the dog training world has got it to a point where it's, I don't know, almost political.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
yeah, because the force free is the Democrats and the balanced are the Republicans, and it's made itself political.
We just went there. I've been trying to hold back for the last 3 months and not say that, but we definitely have got woke dog training out there.
I don't talk politics, but I know what you're saying. There is this correlation.
Yep. Yeah.
So and it can, I think the real answer is both sides
I
work
agree.
very well together.
It will.
Unlike in politics.
For sure. I think it's the old saying is kind of, it's not about how you train, it's about what dog is in front of you. Train the dog in front of you.
They're all different.
Mm-hmm. So it's not a cookie cutter system. Everything's going to work a little different.
And every owner that the dog is going home to is different.
That's what people have such an issue with, right? Tell us a little bit about what you do, who you are, what you do for training and stuff like that.
Okay. My name is Matt Morris. I own the Balanced Canine. It's in Midlothian.
Right.
I started it roughly 10 years ago.
Nice.
I used to work for a company called InterQuest Detection Canines. Before that, for 5 years.
Okay, hold on. Stop right there.
Do you know them?
InterQuest, what's the guy's name that owns it?
Matt.
He does, and...
He's a judge.
And I actually, because he has a place outside of town.
In Kennedale.
In the Kennedale, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know him.
That's the office, yeah. Yeah, Matt and Brenda Hayes.
Yeah, you know how I met him?
How?
It was one of his previous dogs, German Shepherd. He had someone in his office, and the dog bit him.
Oh.
So he hired me to fix that because he goes, I do detection work, dude. I don't do behavioral issues. So he actually hired me to fix his German Shepherd.
That's where I've heard your name.
And then we used to go out and go to we've gone to the pound a couple times and got dogs and went out and threw the balls for him and kind of played with it. So that's...
Yeah. So I worked there
world.
for 5 years, and before that I was a vet tech for several years.
Okay.
So I've been in the dog world on different scales, different levels over the past 20 years or so. And then about 10 years or so ago, I started the process of starting my own business, and so I can work from home.
Yes, that's very cool. That's very cool. That's interesting too. See, this is so off the cuff because I just wanted to talk and be like two guys talking about dogs because I love that part of it.
Sure,
I can sit down with my clients and stuff, pour a whiskey, smoke a cigar, and just talk dog for hours.
Mm-hmm.
Just the detection side of it. Tell me a little bit. Were you a handler then?
Yeah, I was a handler.
Okay, and what did you guys do
we basically schools would contract with us, schools and businesses. We didn't do as many businesses as schools.
You had most of the schools in North Texas.
Schools were our meat and potatoes.
Right.
And basically, I think the schools had to have some sort of drug prevention program.
Right.
And they would contract with us, and we would go around. And, I mean, just showing up is enough to deter a lot of kids from bringing
Keep you
something
honest.
or, making better decisions the next day. Even if, we didn't find anything or whatever, just our presence alone was
for sure
good. And we would do demos too, and we always love showing off.
Absolutely. I mean, you put that much time, effort, and training into them, you want to show them off.
Right.
Let people know what they can do.
So we would work the parking lot a lot, sniffing cars, lockers, classrooms, gymnasiums. Some schools would let us kind of have a little bit of free range, and we'd do some training and do some, go into some weird areas, just to get our dogs more exposure to different things.
Always pushing boundaries. I had the dogs be comfortable in different areas.
I had a dog that was terrified of slick floors.
Yep.
And every school I went to, as much as I could, I'd go into the gym, toss that toy across the floor, and we'd get to work.
We got a choice. We're going to love that toy, go get it or not. So.
And he recently passed away.
Yeah, man.
I heard. Yeah, his name was Bonsai. He was great. He was the last dog I worked for the company. But I was evaluating and bringing a lot of dogs into the company from shelters and from just people that couldn't handle them because we wanted the crazy dogs. We didn't want the good, well-behaved dogs. We wanted the dogs that would go nuts and work all day.
I can't. That was so funny too because that's what he said. He goes, "I'll work these dogs, throw balls for them, do whatever. The last one to drop, that's the one I want." He goes, "Because that one's going to hunt drugs for me all day long."
Right. I'd go out and evaluate a dog, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he's obsessed with fetch." I'm like, "Well, let's take him away from his house." We'd go to a park somewhere, play fetch. The dog drops the ball and pees on a tree.
Yep.
Say,
It's
it was nice to meet you, and they're like, "Well, you've only been here for just a minute." I'm like, "But I've seen everything I need to see."
Right. For what I'm looking for, that's just not the dog for that, right? It's a great dog, but it's just not the dog for what I'm looking for.
Well, and dogs are very honest.
More so than they're humans?
Yes.
I agree with that.
They don't lie to you. They don't manipulate.
Nope, ever.
I mean, I've seen some dogs maybe try to get a little bit of sympathy by... limping a little bit.
So you want to know a hilarious one? I call it a go-to. A dog has this little move or face it'll give you. It's called, if I go to this, my human will forget they're mad at me and let me do what I want to do. I had this dog and we were doing some heel work and we were in their backyard and the dog was not happy that I had taken control because it was running the family, right? Mm-hmm. So we go outside, we start doing a little heel work and I'd stop and I'd give it a little check and it would kind of and hold its paw up. I'm like, that's odd. I'd take a few more steps, stop, check. I'm like, that's the darndest thing. I'm trying to figure this out in my head, what's going on and stuff. And so we keep walking around, and I kind of watch the family. They're looking like real concerned, right? And I'm just like...
I think I know where you're going with this.
So I come back around. They're like, the owner goes, "Hey, let me just check his foot. He might have a cockabur in it." I'm like, I don't think so. I didn't see any on the ground. He goes, "Well, we used to have them really bad about 6 months ago." And I was like, let me guess. When he went out there and he stepped on one and you guys would rush to him and do treat. Oh, yeah, we would get out. We'd pick him up and get it all out and make sure it was all clean and everything. I'm like, yeah, he's faking it, so I'll quit.
Yeah. They have incisors. They can pull those out.
They can pull those out. Yeah, amazing animals.
Sure can. Yeah, it's amazing how resilient dogs are without us intervening. Even when they get a little ill, like some diarrhea or something, it just... give them a couple days. They'll get over it. You don't need to run to the vet. I learned that being a vet tech. Like, just calm down. Let it pass. It's okay. They've been around for millennia,
Well, that's an interesting question, but where do they come from?
Canines?
Yeah.
Well, from my understanding, they come from wolves.
Well,
I'm no scientist.
Well, myself, neither am I. Some people would beg to differ if I was even a dog trainer. Just a certain select few Karens out there. But are dogs pack animals?
Of course they are. We keep them in a pack. Are you talking about if they were not in our home?
Yeah.
Would they form a pack?
If they weren't in our home, would they form a pack?
Do you see multiple dogs walking together down the side of a highway?
I see any two dogs get together always end up together.
Is that a pack?
What
constitutes a pack?
I would say yes, it is. Well, current definition.
I don't
says
know your
a current definition, and I know I've tried. It's almost like I'm leading, right? And I said we're just going to talk, right?
Yeah, I'm going to keep asking you questions. I'm going to figure out where you're coming from.
So currently, because we just talked about this a couple weeks ago on my podcast, a pack now does not exist because dogs are now it's a social animal. Mm-hmm. So the pack no longer exists. There is no alpha. And wolves are not either now. It's a social hierarchy.
I mean, chickens. Have you ever seen chickens before?
Horses.
Yeah.
That's the point. Is there's always a pecking order. So a pack. They say
pecking order.
They say a pack is a group of dogs that hunt together. I've seen definitely signs where I used to road bike, and we'd ride out in the side streets in Kennedale and stuff, and I got chased many times by a pack of dogs that were going to eat me if I stopped.
Oh, right.
So it's just odd to me how dogs have been the same thing, like you said, for a millennium.
Oh, yeah.
But in the last 15 years, they have grown and they have turned into social animals, not dogs anymore.
I see what you're saying.
Right? Mm-hmm. I mean,
through human influence.
Humanization, the dogs, they're
anthropomorphization.
Yeah, thank you. So you and I use that all the time. Anthropomorphology, putting human interpretation on an animal's behavior.
I know some big words.
I know one, and it's that one.
I did struggle over that, but I knew it. Yeah.
Yeah. How often do you see clients doing that with their dogs?
Oh, every day. I had a talk about it this morning.
Less than 2 hours ago, Michael.
Drop off. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's crazy too, because it seems like we want to do less and less work with the dog, but these people expect more and more out of the dog.
Right.
And I've never understood how that works in anybody's mind.
Well, it's because they had a dog that was
they had
easy.
That one.
They had the set it and forget it, and so that's how. You've heard that story a million times.
A million times.
Our lab was easy. I don't understand.
Always.
You know?
Always.
Right.
Always. And it's so crazy, though. But I just can't believe how they've got away from even knowing what a dog is anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And well, let's keep going down this road.
I like it.
Right? Let's talk, right? I mean, we see dogs every single day. This is what we do. So it's just, I talk about how the world doesn't want me to believe what I see. Mm-hmm. And that's in a lot of different areas in the world, right? But I see a pack. I see how dogs do each other every single day. They're trying to get away from correction. Correction is evil. It's bad. Right. It's mean. Why would you tell your dog no?
Nature is the biggest form of correction I've ever seen.
Agreed. I like how you put that.
Cockleburrs.
Right? There you go.
Nature will correct you really quickly.
It will.
And more harshly in most cases.
Much more harshly. Mm-hmm. Do dogs correct each other?
Of course they do. Yeah. I've seen it. It happens all the time. It happens at my house every day.
So you have a pecking order inside your pack of dogs.
I'm referee, of course, but they respect me, obviously. But I let them still figure things out too.
There's nothing that we could do as a human to step in and change that. Someone's going to run and someone's going to follow. It's just there's a leader and a follower.
I walk outside. I got a new puppy on Sunday.
Awesome.
I don't know this dog. Well, I've known him for a week, but the first day off leash, follow me. You follow my dogs. We go from the front yard to the backyard, vice versa. The dog could take off if it wanted to. We live in the county, but still, we live off a street, very quiet street, woods surrounding our house. The dog could take off if it wanted to, but already within just a few hours, that dog knew, like, I'm the one to follow. These guys follow me. Follow them too. You are nothing at this point. And the dog's trying to figure out where it fits in. Yeah. And after a week, he's like, yeah, I know what I can do with this dog. I know what I can do with this dog, or what I can't do with this dog. I know what I can and can't do in the house. Still learning, obviously.
Setting their boundaries. Dogs set boundaries with each other all the time.
Exactly. But I'm not just standing over him.
No.
Trying to,
micromanage it.
Right. I don't I manage things, but not on that scale. I don't like that.
I agree 100%. I agree 100%. And that's what I tell people a lot of times too, is I don't really train dogs. I manage them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, it's they're going to choose to act how they act. As long as I set down boundaries for them to work inside of, they're happy with that. Now go be dogs.
Right.
Right. And I let them do their thing. And like you said, I referee it though. People always ask me, they're like, well, when do I stop the play? I was like, when it gets too loud, it gets too rough, or one dog's getting the better of the other.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that makes sense. Well, yeah, it's the same thing I do with kids. It's like, all right, you guys, knock it off. That's way too much inside.
Right.
So
this morning I got a new puppy in for training, and my dogs and one of the training dogs were in the backyard, and I walked them up past them, and they were whoa, going crazy, and the puppy was a little scared, so I just hung out with the dog for about 30 minutes and just let it kind of hang out away from them, and I waited till things settled down. It was like shaking up a Coke. It's like you're not going to open it right away. You're going to let it sit for a bit until it's safe. And then after that, they were fine. They were like, oh, okay, this isn't any big deal. This happens all the time.
Yep.
It's just a new dog. But if I would have just let that dog go back in there may have been some issue.
Absolutely.
Because they get so
over adrenalized. Yeah. They're ready to go.
And that's when those things happen.
So
bad things.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%. Two dogs come together, never met each other. What's the first thing they have to do?
The first thing they have to do is, well, they have to sniff each other.
Go to butt sniff?
Huh?
I'm glad we're not that way.
I'm not going to show you how they do it. They're like, hey, who are you? What are you all about?
They try to check each other out. Who are you? Do I know you? Have I ever met you?
Circles.
Right. They do their thing.
Hackles go up a little bit, and
yeah. Starting to establish who's going to be the boss.
Exactly.
That's how I see it anyway. Two dogs cannot coexist as equals.
Right. I mean, they can be of similar stature, but there's still always going to be one that's you're not exactly the same.
I mean, for me, and I look at it as they come together, they immediately start to try to figure this whole thing out. Mm-hmm. Either you're the big dog or I'm the big dog. And it's the posturing, and it's the head over the other dog's head, and it's those quick spins, maybe a little play bow, little bark to see what the other dog's going to do. And then when they figure out everything's good, they kind of take off, and then they do the chasing and the running and the playing.
It's like this little litmus test they give each other. You know, like, what are you about? Are you going to be dangerous to me? Are you going to be friendly?
Right.
And we do that, but in different ways. And so it's harder for people, for owners to understand that. And owners have the worst time with introducing dogs.
I agree with that.
How many conversations have we had about, well, I brought a new dog home and my dogs attacked it.
Yep.
And I'm like, you don't do that. There is a way to, even when you train, it's like, if you have a dog that's terrified of going into a store, you don't just walk right into the store. You work in the parking lot, and then you work a little closer the next time, or however it may be. You do things in little stages.
100% levels. That's why I call it building a house. I set the firm foundation, and then if I get good at 20 feet, I'll go to 10 feet. I get good at 10 feet, I'll go right up to that store door and just let things go in and out. Yeah. And I think people overwork dogs to the point where it puts them in a bad place. Like, I'm going to be out there for an hour and a half, and I'm going to be around all these dogs, and it's going to be social when I get done. And it's like,
I keep my private lessons at an hour, and I tell people, your dog is not going to work for an hour.
No.
It can work for 30 minutes, maybe. I can talk for 45 minutes.
Well, and that
I can teach.
There you go. And that's what I mean. My lessons, my hour lessons, I'm probably controlling and talking and doing 30%, 30 minutes out of that hour. And it's just 30 minutes, but it's like 7 here, 8 here. And I'm always breaking it so the dog doesn't get mentally fatigued.
Right. Well, it depends on how old the dog is, too.
True. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The younger, the harder that is. They got the ADHD going on.
And rarely do we get an old dog.
Right.
Typically puppies are, a year, after they start maturing.
I either get them like right away, or I get them at about 9 or 10 months. They're like, all right, I can't handle it anymore. Fix it.
Right. I'm getting one of those in that we've been talking for months. Oh, I think we can handle it. And then yesterday or a couple days ago, they're like, all right, it's time.
That's so funny. I got the exact same one. They were like, well, I was hoping it would grow out of it, but I guess it didn't. So when can you get out here?
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing is one of these things when people say, I hate this, and you might have a different opinion, but they're like, I'll let you know. I heard they don't calm down till they're 3 years old.
Oh, geez.
And I'm like, it's the work you put in is going to calm them down way quicker. And I know some dogs are just naturally,
some have more energy, some have more drive, right?
But if you're talking about a dog respecting you and following you and paying attention to you, that stuff happens as soon as they come home and you start setting up expectations for them, and you don't allow that crazy behavior. Yeah. Of course, maybe, they were just born with a screw loose. Okay. But they can still, at a very young age, learn how to behave. And they won't be crazy like that. I mean, they'll have their moments, but
I tell my clients this. I was like, look, your dog, have you ever been to the grocery store and you see that kid pulling stuff off the shelf and screaming and yelling and crying about what they want?
It's usually me, yeah.
And with your wife? No, baby, we're getting them. But that's what the dog's doing to them. Mm-hmm. He's like, no, I don't want to. And the dog's like, there's no consequence for me not to run all over your house and be stupid.
Right.
So you're not going to make me act right. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, too, because that's one of the things I tell people is like, I'll fix the hyperactivity. They're like, how do you fix hyperactivity? I was like, well, he's not I don't care if a dog's hyper outside. Go run and play. That's what your backyard is for. Be a dog.
Right.
But when we're inside, and this really comes from my background. All my last shepherds were over 120 pounds. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to have a 120-pound dog horsing through my house, jumping over my couch and climbing on counters.
It's the little dogs that get the pass.
Always.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's little, so.
Yeah.
I have been bit way more times by a small dog than I have a large dog, and I used to be a K9 handler, and I got bit all the time by K9. So.
Right.
Well,
you're going to.
If you're around it long enough and you train enough dogs, yes, 100%.
Well, if you're training dogs to bite.
Well, yeah, you're going to take it all the time.
Yeah, you're gonna get. I mean, they'll redirect on you, occasionally. I've never done that before.
Well, I've used the arm. I'm talking about having the sleeve on, but
Yeah.
you got to take a hit if you're going to run one. So
Yeah, I've never been in that world before. No,
I got a friend. He was just in last week. We can set it up.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I have friends that do it, and one of my good friends moved away to North Carolina, and she did it all the time, and she would let me come out there and watch. And one time, I got to, well, I don't know what it's called when you're standing behind the.
You're a decoy.
Yeah, and you're the dogs. And then you have the sleeve, and you say something, and they
boom hit it.
I've done that before, but I never got into that.
Well, I'll make it a little bit funner. We'll let you run, and then we'll send the dog after you.
I can't run. I've got really bad knees. I can hobble.
Oh man, it was funny because we were just. It was like last week. It's the K9 from Grand Prairie, the handler there. I've known him for
what's his name?
A long Lance Monty.
Okay.
So I've known him forever.
Okay.
And our kids went to school together. I used to mess with his dog and play with him.
Yeah.
And then I did one of their canines out there. So, and we were just talking about how the guy was huge. One of their handlers that I was training, he was just a sniff dog. So he was like, can we make mine a bite dog? And we were out at the Dallas Training Center, and me and Monty are like, oh, well, you got to take a hit if you want it. He's like, yeah, let's do it. But we screwed up. We had that because that dog was a machine, one of the best canines I've ever seen. Monty pulls the sleeve out, and it's outside the window, and we're talking for like 5 minutes, and that dog's face is like pressed up against that thing like, let me have it.
Yeah.
But one of the funniest things, we amped him up, and he was out there, and he's hitting the sleeve like a baseball mitt. Come on, go ahead, send him. Because Bullet was 70 pounds. I think he said he was 70 pounds. This guy was ex-Navy, yoked, big old boy,
right?
6'3", 240, no body fat.
Yeah.
And it was funny because Lance was holding him between his legs, and the dog is throwing dirt, dude. And when he let go, that first step was about 10 yards. Boom! And you could see the guy go.
He's been stewing on it for a while.
Uh-oh. You could see him. All of a sudden, he went from let's go to I might be in trouble. And all we could say was lean into it.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
They're amazing
What
animals.
did he think about that hit?
He was shocked because it almost took him to the ground. It almost took him to the ground. That's how hard he hit him.
Right.
So I think we actually clocked that dog one time on radar, and he was doing like 29 miles an hour. That's crazy. In like 20 yards, up to 29, 30 miles an hour. Just boom, right now.
Insane.
It is. So cool, though. So cool, though.
I never, I went from, vet tech to detection dogs to just pet dogs. And I'm a musician and, well, I'm a drummer. I don't know if you call it musician. And I have this thing about not getting my hands mangled. So I send away any dog that I think is going to bite me. So I mostly give me your happy-go-lucky, I'm a problem solver. I like that.
Like it.
So, like if I did group classes, I don't really enjoy okay, today we're going to learn sit, today we're going to learn down. I'm like, what's wrong? Like, what do you need help with?
Yep.
Let me help you think outside the box. That's where I thrive.
I like that.
That's me. And so I get a little frustrated sometimes doing group classes because that's what it usually is.
It's kind of cookie cutter, right?
Yeah, and I don't like that. I'm like, what are you struggling with? Let me help you think differently. Let me help you handle. Maybe there's a tool that could help you, or whatever it may be.
So, do you work with like behavioral issues?
I mean, yeah, just not aggression.
Okay,
so like anxiety and I mean, most of it is someone brings me a dog, I can't walk him, or he's he just wants to play with other dogs. He gets anxious and there's a chain of events from the owner down to the dog that cause these issues.
Always, yeah.
Reactive dogs and stuff like that. Just not dogs that are going to try to kill me or
right.
I have dogs all the time that don't like other dogs, and that's fine. We just manage it, or I just manage it, and that's fine. That's easy as long as they're not trying to kill me. Yeah, then we're good. But I can't afford to have hands.
The fingers ate up.
Yeah,
hard to hit that guitar with 4 digits.
Drummer.
Yeah.
Drummer. I mean,
sticks
flying.
I
could play with one arm. I mean,
hey,
it's
Def
been
Leppard,
done.
baby,
yeah,
right?
It's been done.
Spin upside down and go to like crazy, right?
Right, exactly. But I do photography as well. So I do a lot of dog photography.
Right.
I do dog portraits and stuff. So everything's kind of dog related. But the music, it's like if I can't play, that's going to be
your downfall.
The worst thing.
That's going to cause depression in you.
Very much so. And I'm like, there are millions of dogs that won't kill me, and there are friends that are trainers that will take dogs that will try to kill you, and they're happy with that. And so I'm like, I know someone. Go over here. I'm not some tough guy, and you don't have to be a tough guy to work those dogs, but. I don't have the ego. I don't have an ego.
You know what you want to do. You have your niche. You have your clients, and I'm going to stay inside of it. So right.
Well, I mean, just being a vet tech. Imagine all the dogs that come in there that are so coddled, and then they're brought in to get blood work done, and they're trying to kill you on the table or whatever. You learn to deal with it really quickly.
You do. So a dog that comes in like that's because I think that is something that you dealt with I guarantee it's still going on in the vets today.
Oh, yeah, right? Every day. Yeah.
What do you think some of the leading causes for that behavior are?
Well, okay, this was my thing. This was kind of what got the gears turning in my head. I would see someone come in and they'd have their dog with them and they would be very nervous. And I'm like, this is not going to be fun. Even if I don't know who they are, I already know it's going to be a rough time because we're going to take this dog in the back. We're going to need to draw blood. We're going to need to get a stool sample, whatever. And this dog's going to be a maniac because I can tell the person is not comfortable. The person's nervous. They're white knuckling the leash. And then you have Bubba come in. Just do whatever you want to do. I'm like, yes, thank you. And the dog is always good. So there's a correlation there. Nervous people, I think, typically with say, husband and wife or whatever, one is typically more
in control.
Well, men are usually for the most part more quiet and they're always like, well, the dog respects my husband better or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Men are like dogs.
There's a reason for that, right? Because we're quieter, and then usually whenever we give a correction, it's
firmer.
More
it's
firm.
Right now. We're going to make it happen.
Right. Yep. And then the wife typically is more passive and allows more things, and the dog typically follows them all over the house.
Yep.
So it starts at home, just like kids. And my wife's a high school teacher, and she deals with the same thing. There's parallels you can draw.
All day.
Between those. If it starts at home, I think the majority. I mean, there's always outliers, and
sure,
I don't really know what those are. Maybe the dog was feral and they're trying to rehabilitate
so far and few in between though. You see
right,
those,
that's what I mean. Outlier.
I see it when I see it. I always that dog 9 times out of 10 is not a confident dog to start with.
Right.
And then it's feeding off the anxiety of mom.
Mm-hmm.
And mom tends to coddle and tell it it's okay. And I tell them that you are misconditioning your dog. The dog's not hearing, it's okay, Fluffy. It's okay. They're not going to hurt you.
Mm-hmm. They're hearing
the dog hears
weak.
That. Well, how does mom say good boy? Well, good job, Fluffy. Good boy.
Oh,
it sounds the same to
exactly.
Fluffy.
Yeah.
Fluffy's not listening to the words. If dogs understood English, we wouldn't have a job.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it's such a misconditioning, and people don't even know they're doing it. They've got that weak body like, Fluffy, it's okay. They're not going to hurt you. They're bent over. They're coddling. They're holding. The dog's on top of them, so the dog already goes, well, great. Now I got to protect you too.
Well, people set up rituals, and like, for example, walking their dog, they see a dog because we're up here. Our eyes are in the front.
Yep.
We usually see things first. Dog coming up over a hill. Our dogs are like maybe looking around, and then we start tensing, and then we're sending a signal. Oh, here we go again.
Yep.
And so when you go to the vet and the person feels uncomfortable, they start doing that too.
Always.
There's a lot of things like what you were saying with the good boy and stuff like that. The way we talk, the way we use our voices, and the pitch and the inflection.
Yep.
And then there's subtle things that we don't think about, like getting tense and putting pressure on the leash.
Yep.
You see people come in and they're like this, and there's no this in the leash. Relax.
And that's the biggest thing we stress, that loose leash walk.
Mm-hmm.
So enjoyable and relaxing for you and the dog. You go places, you do things. It's not stressful.
Right.
But yeah, I see it all the time. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I always tell people, I'm like, I always tell, I don't know if I made this up or if I heard this somewhere, or it may be stupid, but I'm always like, the amount of leash that you give them is the amount of trust that you have.
Oh, nice.
I've never heard it anywhere, but this is just something I came up when I was working with my clients. Like, that shows how much trust you have in your dog.
I like that.
I don't know.
It's true, though.
I don't know. Use it if you want to.
I like it.
But I think it's true.
I would agree with that 100%.
Once they're holding that leash at the very end, they're always much more relaxed. Let the dog make a mistake. Let the dog
it's the only way it
feel
learns.
the pressure. Yeah, like let the dog, don't yank on your dog. Let them feel the pressure, and then call them to you, reward them, whatever it may be. But they just do too much.
Yeah, see, I like to, I set the heel and I set it inside, so they're going to do it in their house till it's like perfect. I want them to, I call it installing the behavior.
Right.
The dog knows what a heel is. I know if you walk, I walk, you turn left, I go left, you go right, I go right, you stop, I sit. It's not rocket science, right?
Right.
And the dog is so capable of doing that. It's like not even a task for the dog. It's easy. Well, then we pressure test it, though. Well, that's good, but can you do it on the street? Well, that's good, but now can you do it at the park?
Right.
Well, that's good, but now can you do it
at Petco?
Yeah, exactly. And I think people just jump into the end result, and it's always tight, and they're stressed, and they don't build their confidence in their handling skills. So they always feel like, no, the dog's always going to get the better of me. It's always going to get the better of me. And it's like, slow down, relax.
They're stuck in an endless loop, feedback loop, and it's, if I do this, this is going to happen, and I'm going to feel like this. That's where we come in, and we're not family. That's the biggest thing is nobody listens to family, but if you hire someone like us that's not related, they'll listen to you. I don't know why that is.
Oh, you do though.
Huh?
You do though. You can say the same thing to your kid 100 times, and someone walks by and says it, and they're like, that's a great idea. And you're like, are you serious right now? I get that all the time. The husband looks at me and goes, I've been telling her this for months. And she's like, no, you haven't. And he's like, I've said the same thing. It's like,
exactly.
but this is what I do.
Yeah.
Mom looks at you and goes, this is not what you do. So I'll listen to him. But there are definitely some things out there that I do a lot differently. And I think that comes from my canine background.
Right.
But you alluded to the pressure. I believe in pressure release.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
There should be zero pressure on a dog's neck until it's messing up. The pressure is the consequence for the mistake, and then we reward when we get back online.
Right.
Do you check, or do you just use pressure release?
Check as in...
Actually pop it instead of let the dog run to the end of the lead, feel the pressure, and then...
No, I don't. So it just depends on where we're at. Like if... Say I'm using an old pinch collar or something on a dog, and I have I know, right? And red flag. I know. I'm like, hey, this thing looks scary, but I promise you, it's the best.
It's a lot nicer than Mama Dog did to him. Trust me.
Yeah, it's the best tool you're ever. Well, if you want to walk your dog and you want to do it quickly and then learn to eventually wean off of it, this is a great tool. But what I do is, that's what I said. I let the dog go out, hit the end of the leash, stand there. Dog doesn't make a mistake next to you. It gets good stuff next to you.
Okay.
It gets the correction out here. I think that's what's his name? Michael Cabral.
I think
Cabral. That's I learned that from him. That was just something I picked up, from countless seminars and podcasts and stuff. I was like, oh, that's a great idea. Let them don't correct them here. Make yourself all be good. These are for pets. These aren't working dogs. I'm talking about just pets.
Right.
And I had to come off of that because working the detection dogs, heavy-handed, yank and crank. Those dogs were nuts. And then I'm like, well, now I've got this little French bulldog that, You
got Fluffy.
Yeah, so
not Fido, it's Fluffy.
So you have to learn how to let the dog, make that mistake. But once the dog understands pressure and all that, then that's when I'm going to pop the dog. Like if we're walking along and the dog already understands pressure, and we see a cat and the dog goes like that, I'm going to go, no, pop.
Yep.
And the dog's going to go, ooh, crap, and then I'm going to go click reward.
Yep, I like it.
That's my. I always try to do. I mean, it depends on the dog too. I mean, if I have a dog that's just going wild and pulling, because most dogs, they come in on a harness, right?
Of course.
95% of the time, maybe even higher.
Yeah.
And all they know is that harness pressure. They don't know, and then they fight you for it because you put something on their neck, and then they start alligator rolling.
Yep.
And then you stand there,
and the owner
go, "Are you done?"
Yeah, exactly right. As you watch the owner going.
The owner wants to come rescue the dog. That's the cocklebur story.
Yeah, 100%.
And I always tell people, I go, this dog has never had pressure on its neck. So we're going to teach it. It's probably going to freak out, throw a tantrum. So I don't want you to do anything.
Perfect.
I'm going to wait till the dog gets tired.
You're just going to stand there and let
and
you
then
do
we're
your
going to
thing.
go for a walk. And that's how it happens.
Your behavior is not going to elicit a response from me.
No, nothing.
I'm not mom. I'm not dad. And all of a sudden the dog stops and looks at you like, so we're going to do it your way? Yeah, we are. And then we go. And most of the owners are like,
I know.
oh my gosh, she's so good.
It's a battle of the wills a lot of times. And
100%.
owners typically do not have that patience or the emotional
disconnect to be able to do
exactly.
it. Yeah, I tell them that all the time.
It's hard to see
I'm not
your
daddy.
own dog look like it's in pain. But if someone's standing there holding a leash and the dog's going nuts, the dog's doing that.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing. I was like, how stupid do you think your dog really is? If it was pulling on the leash and it was actually hurting itself, don't you think it's smart enough not to pull?
Yeah.
They're like, well, I never looked at it
We
that
don't
way.
give
Your
dogs
dog's not
enough-
stupid. It is smart.
We don't give them enough credit.
No, I tell people, you
They're
underestimate your dog so badly.
My niece called me this morning, FaceTime me, and she said, the neighbor dog bit my dog's nose. What do I do? And she FaceTime me, and his nose is like, it's not hanging off, but it's bad.
A good chunk. Oof.
And I'm like, well, if you put ointment on it, it's just going to lick it off. If you take it to the vet, they can't really stitch that part up. It's a weird part. And the dog's just going to have to live with the consequence, and it'll heal up. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Just keep it clean. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. And she's like, okay.
Right.
Not going to the vet. I mean, watch for infection or,
Sure.
Because that side of me kicked in,
Oh, absolutely.
But, we'd have dogs come in with gashes on their paw pads, and it's like, there's not a whole lot you can do. That's there's pressure there. They're going to bite at it. And just leave it alone. It'll heal. Dogs are tough.
Yep. It's funny to me how many times the vets see bad accidents, the cut on the paws. I get that a lot from running the pool. Mm-hmm. They just won't control the dog to stop it. I can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Or their face gets tore up trying to get out of a kennel because they have separation anxiety. Mm-hmm. Or I said the other day, I think that one of the number one causes of ACL tears are dogs chasing squirrels.
Yeah. They're cutting,
trying to get that squirrel.
Or even
fence fighting.
Yeah, exactly.
All those little things, and people never look at the inconsequence of what could happen. And I said it, I was like, what if you could prevent that? Mm-hmm. Even if there's just a 0.5% chance that your dog blows ACL, wouldn't you rather be preventative about it than reactive about it?
Yeah, because you know what they'll do? They'll blow their other ACL.
Always. That's like an 85% you're going to hit the other one.
Them then too, like
again.
I need to practice.
Huge, right? and that's what's so funny is it's never the dog's fault. We're the one that give them the food.
Yeah,
it's 100% our fault.
Mm-hmm.
But Fido looked hungry. She scarfed the first bowl down. I thought she wanted more. Mm-hmm. Or she barks at me and tells me when she's hungry, so I feed her.
I have a dog that is heavy, but I can't figure it out. The dog barely eats, and it's a Pyrenees mix. She's fluffy too, big and fluffy, and she just looks heavy. But I think if I dumped a bucket of water, on her,
she'd be like a doodle, like a doodle. 180 pounds. You put them. They're wet.
Like a golden.
They're 12.
Yeah. So I've got a dog, but my other dogs I have 4 dogs. They're all good weight and everything. But with her, she's like an enigma. I feed her barely anything at night. That's all she gets. Then I go to bed. She doesn't eat all during the day, nothing. So
some dogs don't need it. I mean, she's not going to kill herself.
No.
She's not going to starve herself, right? I get that. So I just had a guy yesterday. Something might be wrong with my dog, Michael. He didn't eat this morning. I shit you not. That was the text. I'm like, well, the dog just might not feel well. It might not be hungry.
Right.
I mean, other than that, I would give it a few days, see what happens.
I mean, what's the context? Is it just a regular happy-go-lucky dog, or is this dog have cancer and is dying?
Right. No, it's just like this normal middle-aged dog. It didn't eat one day, and they're like, "Oh God, Fluffy's dying. Mm-hmm. Something's wrong, Michael." And like for one, I'm a trainer, not a vet. So, but again, I am so much old school on that side of it too. I'm like, give your dog a couple days. If it's at least drinking water, it's not dying.
No. Well, you know what happens? The dog won't eat. What do?
Oh, now we're going to start either hand feeding or
they dress it up.
Add something to it. They're going to put the wet on there. Mm-hmm. They're going to cook. They're going to boil chicken for it. And then guess what? We won't eat. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, until they won't eat that.
Oh, I can't tell you.
And then, I need new dog food. I need new dog food. And changing dog food is fine if you're going to like a better quality or whatever.
There you go.
But not because the dog refuses to eat it.
I don't think it likes it.
They won't starve themselves.
No, they can't.
That's my answer to everybody.
They can't. It's impossible. It's an animal.
Put it down. If he doesn't go for it,
that's what people don't understand. We wouldn't either. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't care if it's the thing I hate the worst. About 3 days of not eating, guess what I'm going to do? I bet I'd find a way to scarf it down.
I would eat you.
Right? If it came down to it.
I would eat your hat. I don't think people know. They need to watch Alive, that movie Alive.
Yep. Yeah, right.
That puts things into perspective. I saw that when I was like 8, and I was like, oh my gosh.
That's terrible.
I never want to skip a meal.
Let's get a little controversial. We got about 20 minutes left.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure how long this was.
It's usually about an hour.
But, okay.
Want to get controversial?
Sure. Yeah. I'm cool with that. I may not know all the answers, but
I don't either. That's why you're here.
I'd love to learn.
That's why you're here. Do you think the force-free side has been a positive or a negative on dog training?
It's a positive. Well, that's what you'd say, pure positive.
Right.
Well, I mean, it depends on how you look at it. It gets people talking, doesn't it?
It does.
Okay, so it creates dialogue. And I think honestly, more people who consider themselves force-free and more people who consider themselves the opposite, whatever that may be, balanced or whatever. I think they get along just fine. I think there's always a need for controversy for some reason, but. I mean, it's a good thing because I learned tons of stuff watching people who claim to be force free. I just try to ignore some of like the extreme stuff, like, oh, I just learned how to do clicker training way better, and I'm going to implement that into my training, and I'm also going to correct the dog. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's a good thing. It's just now when they're trying to ban tools and stuff like that, that's when you start getting into like, I don't like that side of the force feed.
Do you think it's as efficient as using other tools?
I think it's good. I think parts of it are good for like foundational stuff. And then once the dog can take more pressure.
Reactivity.
You're going to, no, I don't think so. I can't ever think of a situation where, and I've thought about this a lot, not just right now.
Right.
I can't ever think of a situation where someone is taking, like say aggression or you say reactivity, which reactivity is. So
for me, reactivity is your dog is curious to excited to energetic. Aggression is a totally different deal. Most dogs are not aggressive. Not like aggression that I know.
You'll be hard pressed to find a real aggressive dog.
Agreed. But how long is the process for a force-free trainer going to take to solve something like reactivity, or will
months and years?
Okay,
and you say solved. I don't think
it ever truly solves the problem.
Right. If you're just avoiding things, constantly avoiding, you're never going to. You've got to face it, and you've got to tell the dog to knock it off.
It's scenario. I call that scenario-based training.
Right.
So. Let's say I have a reactive dog, and I'm with you because I get a lot of stuff off the internet, and I post it. And this one girl, how is this going to solve my reactivity? And she's like in the middle of somewhere giving her dog a bunch of treats. And then the next slide is, I did it. We finally did it. And she's walking down a trail next to other people and dogs. 2 years later. Thank you. That's what I. Do you have any client that would work on one thing for that amount of time?
No.
Ever, right?
No.
I don't know why someone would go that long and think that it's working.
I mean, I have clients that update me a couple years later and they're like, he's still great. He's still fine with this or whatever, but we're still like...
Okay, is that crazy? No one in the world would do that. Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, there are very few people in the world that would try something for 2 years to get over dog reactivity. Just an average, I'm not talking like nailing you down to something, like how long do you think it would take you to fix reactivity in a dog?
Of course,
listen, people, I don't have any idea what he's going to say, but listen.
It depends on the dog. So, let's say I have a 2-year-old German Shepherd, okay? And he's a jerk to other dogs when they walk by at a distance, okay? Or say when he sees a dog walking by, his hackles come up and he starts maybe like a little low growl. Nothing's really happened yet, okay? I'm going to pop the fire out of him and tell him no.
Yep.
And we're going to keep walking.
That's called a proactive correction, people. Be proactive, not reactive.
Okay. That's what I always say. Be proactive, not react. Now, I do believe in having a good relationship with the dog, obviously.
100%.
But when you're doing an hour session here and there, you've got to make a statement. You've got to make a statement at some point.
Right.
When is it? Is it better to make one right away? Yeah. Or is it better?
Far less correction, far lighter correction
Exactly.
if I get it before the dog's fully adrenalized.
Well, and you could make the mistake of being the dog's like, oh, he's not going to do anything. Like I did my thing.
Didn't
and
say I couldn't.
Happen.
Didn't say I couldn't.
Yeah.
Didn't say I couldn't.
And even if you do that, it's like, well, now the dog is not going to believe me. I think the dogs have to believe you too. That's another factor. Is it's hard for owners.
That's the relationship part of it, I feel. Like a dog looks at you and goes, okay, you are the big dog. It is your rules, and I do trust you.
Yes.
To be able to handle that because I don't feel good about that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
I agree. Yep.
No. We're on the same page. But yeah, I mean, it's hard for us to have the relationship when we're doing like little,
Agreed.
1 hour sessions.
And that's why it's so hard to get the owner on board to do the things they need to do. Practice, get it done. That dog needs to look at you as in control. So when it goes out there and to get concerned or wants to go do something with that other dog, then it looks to you first. It goes, well, what does dad want me to do? That's not a good behavior. Okay, well, I'll stop acting like that.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's important to explain to people like, hey, this is what's going to happen. Like, we already know what's going to happen.
That's what's, I think, so unique that people don't understand is people that have been doing this long enough, they know what the dog's going to do.
Oh, yeah.
I tell people all the time, this is what's going to happen, so don't freak out when it happens. Like you said, when I put this on, I give a little pressure to that dog around the neck. It's going to alligator roll. It's going to squall.
Yeah.
It's going to scream. It's going to act like it's dying.
Let them know
they
what's
all do
going
it.
on.
And then, but you do that a couple times, and then people start looking at you like, how do you know these
well,
things?
they think you're some sort of savant.
Yeah,
or
right?
whatever. Yeah.
Well, for dog trainers, we are.
Yeah, that's
Right?
true.
It's because if you train enough, you know.
Well, it's like I don't like phone calls because I already know within the first 30 seconds everything I need to, or you know
Right.
what? You could tell me in 30 seconds.
Yes.
Everything I need to know. You don't need to tell me its whole life story. That's why I do in-person consults because people kind of get to the point a little quicker and I can see the dog and I can kind of convey what I want a little bit easier. They see me.
Yeah, it takes like 60 seconds to go, okay, I know that
Yeah.
dog. I've trained it 1,000 times.
Yeah. And I think the vetting is important too for trainers and clients. I don't think we should just work with anybody.
Agreed.
That's why you get a lot of these issues is, well, I worked with this person and they blasted me on Facebook.
10% of my clients cause me 90% of my grief. So I learned early on, we're probably not right for each other.
I don't have that issue. I don't.
I did back in the day. I would take anybody. Like when I first started, when I went on the civilian side and started dog training, like in-home civilians in 2005, I was
all
like,
do that
I got to go. And then I learned real fast. I was like, nope. I could tell it. Yeah, like you said, I'm like, I'll price myself out or just bow out of it and be like, we're probably not a good match,
Yeah.
So how long could you fix a dog's reactivity for a client? Could that dog be over it in 2 months?
It would be over it in 2 sessions.
But to the point where you could walk like through the park side by side another dog, no growling, no pulling, no, it's completely done.
I mean,
The human, the owner, not you.
Oh, the owner.
The owner. Yeah, I agree.
Oh, so,
Can I do it? I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do it in 1 or 2 lessons. I agree.
I don't care.
I agree.
If he acts up, he's getting a correction, and we're going to move on.
Exactly.
It doesn't work that way with the owner.
Exactly.
So typically, gosh, it's been a while since I've had a really bad case of that. Typically we work more like. Are you talking about private lessons, or are you talking about board and train?
Just private lessons. I want to know how long would it take for you to, I come to you and say, man, my dog is super reactive around other dogs. I'm having trouble with it. Could you train me and my dog over the course of the next 2 months and I could pretty much heal by it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, 2 months. Sorry.
That's
I was like, I could probably do it a lot sooner than that.
Right. But that would be kind of, that's what my standard is. I tell everybody I could do it in 2 months.
Sure.
For the human to be able to.
Give yourself a little bit of
Well, right,
leeway
because I have to
overpromise.
them.
No, over deliver. Oh no,
Under
I'm saying it
one of those.
wrong.
Under promise,
Under promise and over deliver.
Yeah, I always say 2 months, and because I've got to get them comfortable with it. But the first thing I want to do is always establish that relationship between owner and dog, so that the dog looks at them and says, you really are in control. And I just need to listen to you. And then when I become worried or concerned about something, that's why I'm reacting to it. I either want to really go play with it, or I'm scared and I want to be dominant over it. I want it to just go away. But I have to have the dog say, hold on. It's not my job. Dad is in control. Let him deal with that. And it was so funny because I had It's red cattle dog. I just got lucky with the videos that I caught of it, but I caught it like first exposure to a Home Depot. And I mean, that dog looked bad, dude. That head was prone out. That tail was down, maybe even a little tucked. And because it was, when I got there, the guy's like, he'll eat you.
Yeah, he's just looking for
He will eat you because he sat between me and him. Well, the first trip to Home Depot, I was like, listen, there's a lot. We're going to make sure that we're super tight on this dog. We're not giving it an inch.
Right.
So I take some video of it, man. The Karens came out. Oh, that dog it's feared, it's scared, and you're suppressing behaviors. And I was like, it bites people. I want to suppress that behavior. What are you, an idiot? But if you looked at it, it would look cowed down. I get that a lot. It looks cowed down. 4 weeks later, it's at a reactive dog group class that I did, and it's walking past. I had dogs walking past each other, right? So it's walking past, but when you watch it, the tail's kind of midline, maybe even a little tweak up. Head's a little higher, but it's still watching Dad. It wasn't all. So I'm like, oh, you got to see the progression, people. So that's 4 weeks. All of a sudden, the dog's like, okay, I'm feeling a little better about being around all this. 4 weeks after that, another class. Dog's walking around, heads up, tails up, happy-go-lucky dog, completely relaxed in the environment of being around 30 people.
Yeah.
So it's a process. I don't think people want that quick fix, but they're never going to get it like right now.
This is what I always tell people. I say, I'm afraid of heights, okay? I can fly in an airplane. Afraid of heights. Someone says, we're taking you skydiving. And I go, no, I will fight you. I will bite you. You try to take me right now, there's going to be a fight. I'm not ready for it.
Exactly.
You know, now they come to me and they're like, hey, watch this YouTube video. Look at the safety, whatever, procedures
Blah,
they
blah,
go through.
blah,
Look
yeah.
how safe, look at the numbers, look at the statistics, you know, like 1 in every whatever, you know, an accident will happen. I'm like, oh, well, and then I start becoming a little more open-minded to it because they're not, you know, they're trying a little bit different approach with me. And then they're like, why don't I just take you up in the airplane a couple times and you can watch us do it. And I'm like, okay, I can do, I'm not afraid of airplanes, you know, watch you jump out. I don't jump out. And I'm like, you know,
slow desensitizing of what's going on.
Maybe next time I'm seeing how much fun they're having and how cool this is. Maybe I'll jump out next time. And then I do it and I'm like, let's do it again.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, that makes, I try to relate people.
I use the height. That's funny. I use the height thing. I was like, it's like being fearful of heights. I was like, after a while, I could go up to the 100th floor, maybe drop a package off and come back down, but I don't really want to work on the 100th floor.
Right.
I'm managing. That it's realistic though when it comes to dogs. If you think about it in that manner, as opposed to how most people do, they're little babies.
Well, and I try to make people think, well, how would you feel? Like this dog's terrified of being in the store or around these people. He's not comfortable. People want people to pet their dog. They want that because it makes them feel good. You know, they're an extension of us. And so we want that, but we can't have that with a dog that's going to eat people or is super uncomfortable or insecure. Right. We got to build them up. It takes time. That's a tough one because that takes.
It does.
That's
that
more
is
than
a
just
time
reactivity.
Thing,
that is
right?
That's a patience thing.
So do you think you ever really change a dog's personality?
I think you change how they view the world. Not really their personality, because I'm always the same. I've tried and I can't do it. I'm like, I want to be more like this person who's like really rich. Nah, I'm still goofy.
I can model patterns after something like that, but I'm not going to actually become that.
Yeah.
Right?
You can teach them how to think, like, oh, when you see this, normally you would do this.
You hit on so many things I could go on for hours.
Right,
I like dogs to actively process information so they can make a better choice.
Well, I mean, just go into a door, like blowing through a door. No, I'm going to close the door on you. I'm going to open it, see what you do, then I'm going to close it again. I'm going to open it again, close it, and then I'm going to open it, and you're standing there and you look at me, I'm going to say, yes, let's go.
Yep.
You can change behaviors, you can change the way they view other dogs or people, but I don't think you can really change their personality.
I like that. Okay, so with that, if I can't change personality, do I ever have a dog that's completely trained?
Well, I mean, things are always changing, so train to what? I mean... there can always be accidents.
If you have a dog that's people aggressive and you go through training and they're no longer people aggressive, is it done?
No.
Well, it doesn't bite anymore.
Well, I know, but they still may. Well, I mean, anyone who has it's an addiction.
Kind of.
Okay. You take a gambler that's been not gambling for 10 years. You take him to
So
Vegas.
you're not changing personality, are you?
No.
It's in the dog. That's who the dog is, right?
Yeah, they're prone to this.
Yep.
It's genetically.
Again, I'm not trying to catch you on anything.
No, I mean, I'm
want
telling
your
you how
honest feeling so that when people watch this, they're like, holy crap, those guys agree on the same thing.
Yeah,
they're like two different dog trainers. They compete for the same pool of dogs, but they can sit down and talk about dogs, and they're like, man, they have a lot of understanding, and they each understand what the other one's coming from because we're talking about the same damn thing.
Yeah, well,
right?
I mean, they're living sentient beings, and so are we, and they deal with similar things. We may process differently, but addiction is addiction.
Yep. That's why I call it managing a dog.
Uh-huh.
I mean, because come on, let's face it. So, like you said, you could take a dog and in 2 lessons have it over dog reactivity. What happens if I just hand that dog to the owner that has no idea what it's doing?
Well, it's going to look awful. Yeah.
Is it going to go back to its old ways?
Yeah, of course.
100%, right? That's what's so crazy about it to me. I tell people that all the time. It's like, I get it a lot. It's like, they're back to their old behaviors. I think they backwards trained. I was like, no, you're just not being in control anymore. You're not following any of the rules. I was like, when's the last time you even did a little work with the dog? Well, been busy. So did you go back to your old ways? Well, to a certain degree. So you're surprised that your dog did.
Right.
Because I think, trained for me, we trained our dog. For a human, when we hear the word trained, is we don't have to deal with it anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Like I trained, like someone, I don't know, trained a receptionist. Well, the receptionist's been trained. If that receptionist came to their boss 30 days later and said, hey, I really don't know what my job is. Can I go through some remedial training? They'd be like, yeah, you're out the door, bye. Mm-hmm. Right? Because once we're trained, we should know what we're doing.
Right.
And I think people get a bad sense. I just hate the word training. Mm-hmm. I just hate it because people think, oh, we did it. We're done. We don't ever have to view it again.
Yeah.
My sibling rivalry, like I told you people, I'll be honest as hell with y'all. My sibling rivalry people, I have probably a 50% relapse rate. Mm-hmm. Because they don't fight. They're done. They're not fighting each other. It's fabulous. It's wonderful. And about 50% of them within 6 to 8 months call me and go, hey, they got into it last night. I was like, well, I bet you $5 you ain't doing what you're supposed to do.
I've got 2 dogs in that are siblings right now that aren't siblings, but their siblings are at home. And I'm going through that right now with them. So, and one of them has already started getting a little too much, and they're puppies. So I'm like, hey, we're gonna have some issues here unless we really, tighten things down.
When do you start training a dog? Best age?
When you get the dog.
That's a great answer. Like before you even get it home, you better start that training.
Just like my puppy, I got him last Sunday already. He's following me everywhere. He knows his crate. He knows his feeding schedule. Because what most people do is they bring a dog home and they let it just do whatever, and then they're like, "Why is my dog peeing everywhere?
Baby.
Why is my dog fighting with this new dog?" It's you didn't teach it any boundaries, just like the secretary. I mean, like you teach them, but and I always tell people that the same thing too. Like you start a new job and they don't tell you what you're supposed to do. You're going to be stressed. You're going to be nervous.
Yep.
You're going to be mad when you get home because you don't know what you're supposed to do. But then you go in, you have an orientation, and they're like, I'm your boss. These people work under you. This is what your day-to-day activities are. Nice.
All right, here we go. Rapid fire questions at you.
Yeah.
You start with an 8-week-old puppy. When should it be potty trained?
Before it gets to me. I'll tell people, do not bring the dog.
What age?
To me. I don't potty train dogs.
What age? How old? You start at 8 weeks. What's the average dog should be potty trained? What would you say?
Well, you're not leaving the dog out in the house, so it should be potty trained that same day because you're responsible.
Right.
Okay.
So your dog, right?
Yeah,
you're doing your puppy. You expect it to be potty trained 95+% by the time it's what age?
I'd say 5 months.
I'm 16 to 18 weeks, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Right. I've had people train them as early and very well potty trained by 12 weeks. If they're very strict, those type A personalities that have the feeding and watering schedule and they do it on time and they're outside for a certain amount of time and blah, blah, blah. Right.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. I'm not trying to catch anything.
No.
I'm telling you, it's all cool.
No, I got you.
Start with an 8-week-old puppy. At what point is it healing with leash and pocket?
I'd say after the first week. I mean,
inside, right? Around the house, inside, right? Yeah.
Start that immediately.
Yep. How about outside, up and down the street?
Oh, I'd say, if you have like dragging a long leash or dragging a leash on leash.
Yeah, pretty much a nice, easy heel next to you, but outside, up and down the street?
I'd say a couple weeks with a new puppy.
Ooh,
8 weeks old.
Yeah, you started 8 weeks. By 10 weeks, you're doing that?
I mean,
you're good.
The puppy I have right now, I mean, he's doing that.
Yeah, but you're going to hit the kickback when he's not.
No, I mean, but I don't let up though. I don't give him that opportunity. It's hard. There's a lot of like little factors I'm trying to figure out here. But
no, I'm just like my clients. I tell them somewhere between by 5 months of age, my goal is to have the dog sit, stay, come, heel, 100%. All my basic on leash obedience is done. I'm ready to push into the world and start my advanced.
I got you. Yeah.
So
and sometimes it depends on like how food motivated they are or toy motivated. You know, it's like if they have no motivation at all, like it might take you a while to figure out what drives this dog. You know, is it affection? Is it food? Is it toys? What is it?
That's just, I just trying to get a sense on like what you do. But like, I'm like, by 5 months, sit, stay, come, heel, and the leash is done.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
I start my outside socialization at that point because I won't let my dog socialize until I have complete control of them. Yeah. And then I can control the socialization. To me, socializing isn't letting my dog run ass wild all over the place, barking and pulling and being stupid.
It's not. It's control.
It's controlling those situations as they come into it and teaching them how to act in that situation.
Well, just like I was telling you this morning with that new dog, I mean, that would have been a disaster if I would have just let the dog out.
100%. But I just don't, I can't believe how many people think that socializing is just letting it run free and do whatever. I got to get in as many places as I can and do as much stuff as I can so it's not aggressive. Or I get this dog that's just like a total dipshit in the world. And it's like, I don't know why, because we were out all the time with it right when we got it. I'm like, good Lord. It acted like that when you brought it out because you weren't in control. So now I put this little 10-week puppy in a position where it's like, I got to control everything. This is terrible.
Yeah. And you know, as I mentioned, dog parks. I'm like that. I always tell people that's the place you go to make dogs hate other dogs.
Oh, you better know it. Mm-hmm. I've never been at one where there hasn't at least almost been a dog fight.
Oh yeah, I've been to.
It's crazy. Everybody hops their ass up on the bench and gets on this and doing this, and dogs are out there being stupid.
Yeah, they don't pay attention, and then they get mad at you.
And there's always that one dog there that's like, I'm the big dog on the block, and none of you screw with me.
Yeah. Well, there's always one that comes in that causes a lot of excitement.
So this is what funny dog parks. This is. I bet that 90 to 95% of every dog in that dog park is zero trained. Mm-hmm. And what they would rather do is take it to the dog park and let it run itself wild and ragged. So when they go home at night, they don't have to put up with any shit. Mm-hmm. Instead of, and they spent more time loading the car, driving them up there, letting them out to go play in the dog park, and then driving them home than if they would have just put 30 minutes of working with their dog and actually accomplished something.
And little do they know, they're actually training a little athlete. Yeah, they're training them to be more resilient.
It's like, I know that people don't get that. It's like, well, we take it on a 3-mile walk every day and it still has all this energy. Well, stop revving up your sports car, man.
Teach your dog to do nothing.
Thank you.
Teach that. That's what's missing.
It's okay to do nothing.
Yes.
But with that, I think for a dog to do nothing, it has to have enough trust in you that you are in control and doing something.
Well, yeah, they have to feel comfortable and secure.
100%.
You know, or else they can't relax.
I agree.
We have to give them an environment where they can relax.
I agree. I like it. Mm-hmm. We blew through that hour, dude. I didn't even look at my notes once. That was fun. I had a few things I wanted to talk about. I didn't even look at it once.
We'll do it again.
1,000%, man.
I can talk.
Apparently, we both can.
Yes.
So don't get the cigar and whiskeys out, man. Our wives will never see us again. What are you guys doing? We're just on dog number 2 that we're talking about, right?
Right.
That's awesome. But I really appreciate it, man. It's been a great conversation.
I agree.
I mean, this has been fun.
I think we agree on a lot of things.
100% do. Yeah. So I don't think we're far off the same.
And you probably have a lot more experience. You know, I am
much older than you. Yes.
Thank you for saying 44. That nicely. Well, and even if you were the same age as me, you may have started,
1990,
30 years ago.
Yeah, 34.
Yeah,
1990.
Yeah, exactly. So I still have a lot to learn, and that's why.
Well, we all do. I think when you stop learning, you get in trouble.
Yeah.
And I even had on one of my podcasts, I had a guy that's got a Dutchie, and it's a little hot. It's a little hot rod, and we've had some reactivity issues with it. And I am not that guy. I'm like, let's call the breeder. The breeder's like, call this trainer in Florida. I'm like, let's get him on the line. Let's go. Let's talk. We're describing stuff, and they're like, well, you got anything? Yeah, call this guy. He's pretty good. So I'm like, I do not have an ego. I want you to have a dog that goes places and does things. I want you to be happy with your dog.
Yeah.
So that's the big thing. So we got to cut it off here in a minute. I will definitely want to have you back. But my big thing is there's somewhere between 9,000 and 13,000 dogs every year surrendered to Dallas. Mm-hmm. That's Dallas. That's not everything else.
That could have been helped.
That could have been helped. And you know as well as I do, 95% of those are actually fairly easy fixes.
Well, training's expensive too. And
It
there's
is.
a lot of people getting them for cheap. And they're not, people who get dogs for cheap, they're not going to spend the money on the training.
They aren't, unfortunately.
And what's the easiest thing to do? Take it to a shelter.
And then they always get another one. They think it's the dog's problem, not theirs.
Or one wanders up to their house or whatever.
So it's just, to me, if we just had, but I set up special programs for people who do adopt.
Yeah.
You know, and
That's
they still
awesome.
don't want to take advantage of it sometimes. It's just like, I don't understand that. So again, here we go. We're going to be here for another hour.
But simple management is such a huge thing that's being missed with dogs. You know, creating a crate and a leash.
We need to figure something out. We need to collab on something that we can do that's very inexpensive, but actually gives people something that's going to work for them.
I love it.
You know, because I think that's my thing is I want to keep. That's Dallas, man. How many? And most of those dogs, 95% of those dogs are being put down at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So what can we do to put something out there, like you said, because I make fun of it. It's like you're going to get exactly what you paid for off that $19 video, right? But these people are clickbaiting it. They just want to sell 1 million of them.
Right.
And that's how they're making their money when it looks all good and fluffy, but they don't get it. Every home I've ever been into has treats.
Yeah.
And if treats was the sole reason and going to make dogs happy, then dogs would be happy. We wouldn't have dog trainers. Just throw them a bunch of treats. Everything's good.
Right.
So we need to really talk about that, collab on something that we could do that allows people at an inexpensive price, but to actually have success keeping those dogs in their homes.
Yeah. I love that.
That's all. I think we wouldn't be in the business if we didn't love dogs.
Right.
And there's got to be a way. So maybe we'll think about that in the future and something we can do.
I'm all about that. And I created that Midlothian Dog Talk group too. It's good. I think there's about 6,000 members on there. So it's a good way to do some outreach too through there as well.
100%.
So I think someone needs to do that in every city.
It would be good.
And create a community of dog lovers and people that need to hear some of the things that we've been saying.
Right.
Need to be on those because a lot of those times those things it can get a little, you know what I mean? Like my opinion may not be very well received.
Right.
You know, we'll correct the dog. You know, but no, you just give it a treat and ignore it or whatever. But we have to make that more somehow
more mainstream, back in the normal. And
I don't know how because
we've
been trying. I mean, everyone's been trying, but
let's talk about it. We'll do this again. We'll do this again, but we should get together and really talk about it and think about it. But we're going to have to go before my producer shoots me in the head over there. Hey, guys, thank you so much. I hope you have found this as entertaining as I have. Like I said, me and Matt have never met before, Facebook, stuff like that, but I truly appreciate it. I think that was some great conversation.
That was fun.
I think we're going to have a lot more of them. So, guys, I hope you got something out of this and understand that when you're talking about professional dog trainers that do this for a living, this is how we provide for our families. This is what we do day in and day out. We see these dogs, and we believe what we see. We trust what we see. We trust what we do because we see results with that. So until then, you guys get out there, work your dogs, have some fun, and happy training. We'll see you next time.